Let's explore the data grid in the JAMS program. A data grid is found on many different screens, and it is just a quick view of your data. Red font indicates an inactive record. There is a horizontal scroll bar along the bottom and a vertical scroll bar along the right-hand side. You can change the width of your columns by hovering over the edge of a column header, holding down your left mouse button and dragging the width of the column to the left or right to resize it. You can also hold down your left button and move a column by dragging and dropping it into the order that suits your workflow best. This is important because if you are entering a large amount of data, you can have those fields flow in the order that you need them to, and you will reduce the number of clicks or scrolling that you might have to do as a data entry person. You have the option to make a column visible or hidden in two different ways. If you right-click on a column header, the drop-down has a menu option that says remove this column. That just makes it hidden. The other is the column chooser button in the upper left corner. Click the asterisk and a list of the columns appears, and just select the checkbox next to the column name, and that will toggle the visibility on and off. We also have two different ways to make a column visible that's currently not. If you come across a data grid and you want to add some more columns, you can right-click on a column header, select Field Chooser, and from the Customization menu, select the column that you would like to add back into your data grid by clicking on it, holding your left mouse button down, and drag and drop it to the location where you want it to fall within the data grid. You can also open that column chooser by clicking on the asterisk in the upper left corner and clicking the checkbox next to that column's name, column header name, and that will put it back in your data grid. Additionally, while you have that field chooser window up, the one that says customization, you can remove columns from your data grid in another way. We've already shown you how you can right click and say remove this column, and you can use the column chooser by clicking the asterisk. You can also select a column header by clicking with your left mouse button, dragging and dropping it onto that customization list, and that removes it from the data grid. If you need to change a column width to be resized to the exact size of the largest data, you can hold your cursor over the column header edge until you get the size cursor, and then double click with your left mouse button, and the column will be resized to the largest cell of data in that column. Inside your column header menu, if you right-click on a column header, you can see that you have some additional sizing options. You can select Best Fit for that column, or you can select Best Fit to resize all of your columns. Inside the data grid, you have the ability to group data by column header. So let's start. The first method we'll use is by dragging and dropping the column header right above the column header area. So select mailing state. We're going to group our data by state, and we locate that column header, click with our left mouse button to drag, and then we drop it once we see the two vertical green arrows. Release your mouse button, and the data is now grouped by mailing state. We'll then select another column header, Account Manager, and we'll have a subgrouping under state by Account Manager, and we just select the column header and drag and drop it in that grouping area. And now our data is grouped by state and then by Account Manager. Let's say now you want to view the groupings by Account Manager and then by state, and all you do is select the column header, Account Manager, and drag it so that it has priority over mailing state. To remove the groupings, just drag them back down into your column header bar and the groupings are taken back out. You can also group your data by right-clicking on a column header and in the drop-down menu just select Group by this field and the same task is performed. Let's take a look at some data that we've grouped by mailing state and then by account manager. Using our scroll bar, we can go and see that this data, these groupings have a plus and a minus sign, and that indicates that there's additional fields within that grouping, and you can expand it to show them, or you can, if you hit the plus sign, it expands, and the minus sign contracts the data. In the drop-down menu, when you right-click on a column header, you can also toggle the visibility of those groupings on and off. And let's right-click on a column, and you can see Group by Box is a menu option in the drop-down, and you can toggle the visibility off or on through that menu. In the data grid, you also have the option to sort your data on any of the columns that appear in the data grid. So one of the quickest ways is when you see a column header, there's a little arrow in the right-hand side of every column, and if you click it, it will toggle between ascending and descending order on that column. You can also right-click on a column and select in the drop-down either Sort Ascending or Sort Descending. And I'd like to note that you can arrange your data in your sort by date or by alphabetical order or by numerical order, depending on the data contained in that column. We discussed that you can resize a column, but you also have the ability to resize an entire row or a row within a column. To resize an entire row, hold your cursor over the left column that contains checkboxes, and when you get the sizing cursor, you can drag that up or down to resize all the rows in your data grid. To resize a row inside of a column only, position your mouse cursor on the bottom of the column header name and hold down the left mouse button, drag the mouse button down to resize the column row. To select a row in the data grid, click on the row or check the box next to the row you wish to select. To select multiple adjacent rows in a grid, click on a row and then hold down the Shift key and then click the last row that you wish to choose. If you want to select rows in any order, you can just check the box next to the row that you wish to select. On the bottom left of the data grid, you'll see that you have navigator buttons. The navigator buttons perform movement within the data grid, and if you hover your cursor over the top of any of the buttons, they identify, the label will pop up and tell you what that button does. If a button is grayed out, that means that it's not accessible to your user permissions. The first button repositions the data cursor to the top of the grid. Prior page repositions the data cursor up the grid based on the number of rows visible in the grid. Prior, this button repositions the data cursor up one row. Next, this button repositions the data cursor down one row. Next page, this button repositions the data cursor down the grid based on the number of rows visible in the grid. Last, this button repositions the data cursor to the bottom of the grid. Bookmark allows the user to bookmark a row, and then Go to Bookmark allows the user to jump to bookmarked rows. In the data grid, you can filter on your data on any of the columns. If you hover your cursor over a column header, a funnel icon or image appears. You can click that small button and a filter menu drop down with a scroll bar is visible. You can select multiple items, single items, you can select non-blanks, blanks, All to remove a filter, and you can select Custom and build filter criteria in that menu for Custom. You also have another option. If you right-click on a column header and select Filter Row, you'll have a row of filters visible for every column header, and you have the ability to set up filters on all of the columns all the way across based on your needs. You can toggle that on and off through the right-click menu on the column header. We can go and select Filter Row again, and it removes that visibility of the filter row. When you have a filter set on your data grid, the filter panel will display the current filter on the data grid. If you'd like to build criteria for an advanced filter, on the bottom right-hand screen of your data grid, you see a Customize button, and when you click that, you get a Filter Builder menu, and that allows you to add a condition, add a group, or clear all filters. The buttons also allow the user to add a condition, add a group, or clear all filters at a respective level. New condition, there's a little button there. It says press the button to add a new condition. When you click that, that allows the user to set up another filter condition in addition to what may have already been built. You have logical operators that allow the user to select how to apply the filter. Those are and, or, not and, not or. And then you have a column drop-down that allows the user to select which column in the data grid to filter. The filter option allows the user to select how to filter the data grid. Setting the filter value and then clicking Apply will filter the data grid. You can save your data grid, and you can open a saved data grid. When you click to save, you can name the filter, and then you can click OK. When you click to open a filter, a list of the previously saved filters will be displayed, and you can click the box next to the desired filter row and click the Load button to load the filter, and then click the Apply button to apply the filter to the grid. A defined filter is active if the box on the left side of the filter panel is checked, and inactive if it is unchecked. You can remove all filters from a data grid by clicking the X on the left side of the filter panel. In the data grid, you have the ability to add a footer to a column. Let's go into the column header menu by right-clicking and select about a third of the way down the footer option, and you can see a bar appears across the bottom of your screen. So let's add a footer to one of our columns, the mailing state column, and right-click, and a menu pops up, and available footers are not grayed out. If they're gray, they're not available for that particular column of data. And so we'll select the count option. And what's nice about the footer is if you go and filter your data and select one or two of those states or some other criteria, the footer counts the data based on the filter criteria you have. And if you remove the filter, then the count at the footer changes. To find text in any column in the grid, you can bring up the Find panel, right-click on a column header, and select the binoculars, the Find panel, and the Find panel will be visible. The location of the Find panel will be dependent on how you set up for it to appear in your user customization. Type any text in your Find panel, and the data grid will be searched in all columns. It takes about 1 second, and if that whatever you've typed appears in any column in the data grid, it will be highlighted, and only the rows that data is contained in will be visible. There's another way to search. Let's close the Find panel by clicking the small X to the left. This clears the previous results. Now, select a column that you want to search on and click on any cell in that column. Start typing the search term you want to look up, and the program will jump to the next instance in the column. It goes to the first match, and you can move between the next matches if there are more occurrences by holding down the control button and clicking the up or down arrow to move between the matches. Users have the ability to pin a row. Hover the mouse on the left side of a row to see the pin symbol. Left mouse click on the pin symbol to see the row fix options. If you click on the fix to the top, the row will be fixed to the top of the data grid. And if you click fix to the bottom, it'll be at the bottom of your data grid. You can do multiple rows of data. There's no limit. And you can change the options of whether or not you're having the rows fixed or pinned to the top or the bottom of the data grid by clicking the pin symbol on the fixed row and selecting the other option if you want to change it. You also have the ability to anchor columns, and you do that by right-clicking on the column header and bringing up the column header menu and selecting Anchor This Column. Clicking Anchor This Column will keep the column visible on the left of your data grid even when you're scrolling, and multiple columns can be anchored. There is no limit to the number of anchored columns, and to unanchor a column, to remove it, you right mouse click on the anchored column and select the Unanchor This Column menu option. Users have the ability to export data from the data grid. Right-click on the column header to bring up the column header menu and select the Export menu option. A sub-menu appears, and that is a list of the different file formats that the data can be exported to. All visible data in the grid will be exported. Hidden columns will not be exported. File formats available for exporting are CSV, Excel, XLSX, HTML, text, and XML. Once you select your file format, you will be prompted to save the file to a location and a name, and then you'll be prompted to open the file. You must have administrator rights to be able to export data from the grid. This next feature also requires administrative rights. Under the column header menu, right-click on any of the column headers, and you'll see at the bottom of the column header menu, Recycle Bin. Only administrators can see the Recycle Bin menu. When records in the system are deleted, they are not permanently removed. They are sent to a recycle bin, and they can be restored if you have administrator rights. So we're going to walk you through. So let's access the recycle bin, and within this menu, Active, we have some buttons. Active allows you to recall a record that has been deleted. Click the Edit button at the bottom and then check the box in the row for the desired record. Edit allows the active button to be changed from inactive to active. Save allows you to save the changes that you've made. OK, once the records to recall have been set back to active status, click the OK button to make all of the records active again. Cancel to cancel any changes that you were making in that menu. Another feature available to a user with administrative rights is to copy cell data. This is not to copy data from cell to cell within the data grid. It is to copy data to an external application or use. An example of this might be to copy a tax ID, an address, an email, to a Word document. So to perform this, select a cell, the cell with the data that you would like to copy. In this example, we'll use a tax ID. And we're going to copy the cell value by right-clicking on that cell, and then we're going to open a Word document and paste it, and that's how that works. You also have the option to copy a cell with column name, copy the row, and to copy the row with the column name. And again, this is to copy data to an external application, and also it is limited to a user with administrative rights. This concludes our tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find more videos linked within the help file of the JAMS program. Thank you.